All right, and we are here again, and we are back again. As always, I'm Matt.
I'm Drew.
And this is the Back Again podcast. This is where we look at sequels from the past. As you know, we are doing our Disney animated sequel list right now. We are trucking along.
Well into it,
and we only got a couple left. And today's is a very special episode because we are joined by a good friend of ours. Drew, why don't you go ahead and introduce this person?
She is our resident Disney expert, Hunter Lowy.
Hi, guys.
How you doing today?
Good. Watched one of my favorites.
Yeah. Before we start, why don't you tell us about your kind of connection with Disney, like growing up with it, like, do you like it? Do you hate it? Like, are you a big fan, not a big fan?
In a dorky way, Disney is my entire life, based my entire being around it. So when I was little, I would watch 101 Dalmatians, Lion King 2, Lady and the Tramp 2 every single day. I named my dog Angel after Angel in this movie. But so I just watched Disney all the time. We went to Disney World all the time. I worked for Disney World. I now run a company where I help plan people's vacations to Disney. Everything is Disney.
Wow. And what's the name of that website or that company?
It is Magic Hunters, and the website is magic-hunters.com.
Beautiful. We're going to bring back around. You're going to tell us some more about it at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for that. So it's fair to say then, in regards to these Disney sequels, that you've seen already a lot of these kind of sequels that we're doing.
Yeah, there's only a handful of Disney movies I haven't seen.
And would you say, in general, the whole sequel verse of Disney, would you say it's a positive experience, or would you say it's a little worn out?
I think if I was watching them now and they made them like they used to, I don't think they're very necessary. They were definitely for like little kids. But then you have like Incredibles 2, where like that was great and everyone enjoyed it and it definitely added a lot more to the story. Or like Frozen 2, like those aren't your like straight to DVD sequels. Like those are actual like things.
Well, I think it's relevant because, with Disney Plus out now, you have access to all these movies. So if you are a kid kind of growing up, you don't know the difference between like the one that went into theaters and made a bunch of money or just the straight to video one. Like you kind of connect it all as one big story for these character arcs. But I think that will be a good transition into figuring out if today's movie also does that. So for our episode today, Hunter, why don't you introduce the title of the movie that we're doing?
All right, we are doing Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure.
And this is, of course, the follow-up to the 1955 Lady and the Tramp. Very similar to the Bambi sequel we just did, Bambi 2. There's 40 plus years in between the original and the follow-up in which they're doing. So it's what has Lady and the Tramp been up to for 46 years? We're going to find out. So before we get any further, let's go ahead and jump into this plot. So this is Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure. So we start on, I believe it's the 4th of July.
Independence Day.
It's Independence Day. There's a big festival that they're setting up to. There's a big kind of opening song about how this is England town or this is a town. And we have all these people kind of, getting together. We find out that Lady and the Tramp, some time has passed and Lady and the Tramp have had their own pups. Like even though the adults kind of all the same, like the baby's kind of just a little bit old. It's just an older baby.
Well, having kids will do that.
Yeah. But the doll, specifically Tramp, he's very old. Like he's kind of
mature.
He's matured a lot. So, but we only believe that it's been like 7 months, right?
A handful of months, yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys want a fun Disney fact real fast?
Please.
Yes.
Okay, so the town that it takes place in is based off of Walt Disney's hometown. And so Main Street USA in all the Disney parks, wherever there's a Main Street, is based off of his hometown, but the architecture is more based off of a town in Colorado.
Do we know what kind of time period this was? Like the art that the architecture is based off of?
I think 1910.
So basically, yeah. So time has passed. Lady and Tramp have some pups of their own. I believe that there are 3 female pups. There's 1 male pup. And the male pup is Scamp. And he's kind of the chaotic one. He's the one that's kind of, he causes chaos. He gets a bath. Then he goes outside immediately in the mud, brings the mud in the house. After all this kind of chaos that Scamp starts, they put him on a leash and they put him outside.
Yeah.
Right? And this is something that was resonant in the first one. Because for Tramp, it's all about when you're outside, that's the end of a life as a dog. But now in this movie, Tramp is telling Scamp, you need to learn discipline. You need to be on this leash. You need to be out here Like, you're being young, you're being reckless. Obviously, Scamp is being a little rebel. He wants to break free, he wants to be a wild dog.
Before we continue with the plot, can I circle around real quick? Because Tramp 180s in this scene with Scamp.
Yeah.
And it was especially, I picked up on it more with his talking with Lady. But then you brought up the scene with him talking with Scamp when he's outside and chained to the doghouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just two scenes almost back to back where he 180s on his character from the original. And I could see it being justified. Hunter, what do you think about Tramp and how he's portrayed in the sequel?
I think it's good because it really shows like the contrast of like where Scamp is, and it's just kind of, like you were saying, it's just kind of like the polar opposites, like the two of them. And you know, Tramp's been inside, and you know, he's got people who love him, and he's clean, and he doesn't have to keep running for his life and all that fun stuff and break into the zoo and
Well, his whole defense is he's like, well, I used to be wild like you, but then I fell in love and I got married and I learned discipline, which is now I'm trying to force the discipline on you early on. But either way, it's just kind of a setup to get those two kind of on opposite fields.
Yeah,
right?
if nothing else, it's just there to establish the conflict.
Yeah. So
But he does.
Yeah. So after Scamp sings his Moana song, he basically kind of breaks out of his leash and he's able to kind of run free. And while he's running free, he comes across a group of other kind of loose dogs, and they're kind of causing havoc with a dog catcher. After that, he runs into another female dog, which is Angel, which is played by Alyssa Milano. And after he meets Alyssa Milano, she does some parkour, and then she basically tells him, like, you know, you can't handle the street life, kid. So after Alyssa Milano leaves, we cut back to Lady and Tramp, and they realize Scamp is missing. And this is a total of like a 5-second clip. They just go like, where's Scamp? And then we just cut back to Scamp again, like immediately. It's a really quick scene. But Scamp is now at the junkyard. He's looking at all the loose dogs. During this scene, once he kind of crashes into the junkyard community, we introduce our villain, which is going to be Buster. He's the king of the junkyard dogs. After Buster and all the dogs kind of look at Scamp, they also believe that he doesn't have what it takes for this junkyard life, and then that's what leads us into another song, which is going to be Buster's song. It's like, we're the junkyard people, and you can't join us. So after we get our, you know, junkyard song, basically Buster tells Scamp that he will let him into the gang if he completes a series of tests. And the first test is Scamp has to go steal a can from a sleeping large dog. He has to do this so you can imagine what happens next. He wakes up the dog chases after Scamp. A bunch of kind of wacky hijinks ensue, but it eventually leads to the dog catcher taking away the big large dog. So because of this, all the junkyard dogs are like really happy, and they call like Scamp a hero. They say, wow, you like really did us a favor, blah, blah, blah. Buster's still not convinced. He's gonna give him another test down the line, but for the time being, Scamp has been welcomed into the junkyard community.
The first test is passed.
The first test is passed.
and he learns about Tramp. They're like, you're the best dog ever. And they're like, and then one of them's like, no, you're not, because he's not like the Tramp. And up until this point, Scamp had never known that his dad was a junkyard dog. So then they tell him this whole like dramatic story that Tramp, you know, fought off like 24 dog catchers and survived. And then the loser fell in love, and that's why he's no longer a junkyard dog. And so, you know, Scamp goes through like an existential crisis that his dad is everything that he wanted to be, and he gave it all up.
Yeah, I really like that flashback because there's a moment where Tramp is like at the edge of a waterfall, and instead of facing all the dog catchers, he decides to pull a Richard Kimball from The Fugitive, and he just jumps off the edge of the waterfall. After this, Scamp and Angel kind of have this like conversation argument about indoor versus outdoor. Angel's whole point of view is like, you know, you're kind of lucky, like you get to being outdoor is not all it's cracked up to be. And Scamp is all like, no, being indoor isn't all it's cracked up to be. And this kind of just goes on for a little bit until eventually they realize that they're about to get run over by a train. After they get out of the river, they kind of joke a little bit, they wrestle. This flirting then leads us into our falling in love montage. They show up to Italian man's restaurant. He gives them a bunch of spaghetti. I like to call this 2001 spaghetti scene. And basically instead of, well, why don't you, since you're such a fan, why don't you explain what happens in the spaghetti scene?
The spaghetti scene, so, you know, they get their plate of spaghetti, they got their 2 meatballs, they're going to share the spaghetti string like the parents. It's going to be all cute and we're going to recreate it. But nope, Angel is a true girl and she just goes ahead and eats that whole plate.
Yeah. a very modern, more interpretation of
Yeah.
kids on a date nowadays, which is just eating. So after the date, they're kind of walking through, and they actually see Tramp and Lady, with the owner kind of like coming back from searching for them. The point of the scene is that Angel discovers that Tramp is Scamp's father. She sees the house that they have. She sees the life he has.
She overheard Lady and Tramp talking about searching for Scamp.
Yeah, and so after that, we skip to the next day, and this is the 4th of July festival. This is all the stuff they were setting up in the first scene. During this time, while all the dogs and all the people are at the festival, Buster connects the dots that Tramp and Scamp are related because they like scratch their ear the same way. So after this, he comes up with a plan where he doesn't tell Scamp that he knows, but he says, here's your final test if you want to get in the junkyard crew. You're going to go down to the picnic in which your own family is having, and you're going to go steal the chicken from everybody and bring it back to the junkyard. So Scamp goes off and does this. He grabs the chicken. All the dogs chase after the chicken. They destroy the festival. Tramp eventually catches up with Scamp and the chicken. Eventually, Buster catches up with the two of them. He yells at Tramp for leaving him in the past. And, now Tramp's defending himself for getting married. Buster's yelling at Tramp. And Scamp's kind of in the middle of all of this. And all the dogs are kind of yelling at him or barking at him where to go next. Like, you come with me, no, come with me, no, come with me. And eventually, Scamp chooses Buster. And he chooses the junkyard life. But right before Tramp kind of gives up and walks away in defeat, he unlocks the gate to a fence, the fence that none of the other dogs could open. And it's almost kind of this like tipping of the hat. And Scamp sees this and goes like, oh, I didn't know my dad could pick locks.
And then, and then Buster goes in, and in order to get Scamp's attention once more, takes the leash off of him. Or, I'm sorry, not the leash, the collar.
Yeah. Buster takes the collar off of Scamp, or you're finally leaving your life behind.
You're a junkyard dog now.
Yeah. So they all go back to the junkyard. Angel sees Scamp there. She's upset again. While Scamp and Angel are arguing, Scamp reveals that Angel wants to live his life. And I guess this is like kind of a shameful secret that all the other dogs, including Buster...
Well, it's a betrayal.
It's a betrayal, yeah, of the life that they've chosen. So they all ridicule her. Eventually she decides, she goes like, screw this. And she walks out. So after she leaves, Scamp goes looking for her. And we kind of get this weird scene where we see Buster looking at Scamp looking for her. And Buster's like, I always knew that Scamp didn't have what it takes. He's already looking for her. And he sets up this elaborate kind of plan where he sees the dog catcher coming. He puts out a dog in front of it to distract the dog catcher. It chases after it. But then at the very last minute, Buster pulls his own dog away, and then the dog catcher only sees Scamp in his sight. Yeah.
So yeah, he gets the dog catcher to go after Scamp.
Yeah, so then the dog catcher catches Scamp. He starts to take him to the dog pound. Along the way, the dog pound, Angel sees Scamp in the truck. She goes and runs and tells Tramp and Lady. Tramp goes to the dog pound. He rescues Scamp from the dog pound. He also faces off against the big dog again. But eventually Tramp defeats the big dog by doing some parkour.
And he does the lockpick thing again.
He does the lockpick thing again, and he traps the big dog inside.
Scamp is impressed.
The best part is when the fireworks are going off behind Tramp to be like, wow, you're amazing.
That was the best. That hero shot.
For sure. And then, yeah, after he does all this kind of stuff and rescues Scamp, Scamp's like really impressed, and he's finally like looking up to his father. So after all that, they go back to the junkyard, and Scamp kind of confronts Buster. He does some kind of kick with a can or something, and he forces everything to violently fall on Buster. And I guess Buster's trapped under all this rubble now, which kind of seemed a little
excessive.
Kind of heavy. So, but they go back to the junkyard because Scamp's going to get his collar back. So they're all reunited again, and during this time, when all the dogs in the family are all kind of like happy that everybody's back, Angel starts to walk away. She looks back all kind of sad. And then this eventually leads to the family adopting Angel. After that, we kind of just have a big happy family, and then it's happily ever after.
Yep, roll credits.
And yeah, I believe that is the plot to Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure. All right, so before we kind of get into the ranking of this, let's get Hunter into this. So Hunter, what are your kind of initial thoughts about Lady and the Tramp 2, maybe even versus when you watched it as a kid versus also watching it as an adult now?
Yeah, it's not as amazing as it was as a kid. Like, I watch 101 Dalmatians all the time, and that one's still like amazing for me because I always like dog movies, but it's not as good as it was.
Yeah, and I think what's a kind of an ongoing theme with a lot of these sequels, kind of like what you said, Drew, was they're kind of retracing over certain story beats. And like even with Tramp, like his whole thing in the first movie is not being a dog on a leash, and in this one he's kind of all about discipline. He's a lot more mature.
More so than Lady.
I would say like when shit actually starts to hit the fan, like when Scamp decides to leave him, he handles it maturely. He's like, well, I'll always be here if you blah blah blah. But he also starts the movie as such like a hothead.
I agree. It's hard to touch on stuff that isn't really just like retreading.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is going to be a question for both of you. Is there anything in the movie that doesn't work, that you don't like, that or doesn't hold up more so for you, Hunter?
I think some of the songs, but I think they bugged me when I was little too. I don't like Scamp song. I don't like the Junkyard Dog song. And I think that's it.
For me, the biggest failure, I think, were the title characters, Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, they don't really do anything.
They don't do a lot in here, and when they do, it's just to service the plot.
They don't give anything for Lady to do.
Exactly.
The whole movie.
No, and that kind of always made me mad because her name's still in the title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the flip of that, Scamp and Angel are two pretty solid characters, all around, dynamic.
Yeah, I
interesting.
liked Angel a lot for sure. She was like, you know, the parkour dog who was like the badass. She was kind of like the Black Widow
of those Avengers.
Yeah, of those Junkyard Avengers. So I don't think we have anything else we really want to say about it. So we can go ahead and jump in the ranking. So as always on this podcast, we ask 3 questions, which leads to kind of a final vote question. And the first question is, does it work as a sequel? Now, with our guest, Hunter. So Hunter, I'm going to start off with you. So for you, does this movie work as a sequel?
I think it technically works as a sequel. Like you're definitely building upon like the new characters that they added at the very end of like the puppies. It's a check mark. I mean, it's got too much sentimental there.
Yeah. I also, what's interesting is that I would say we're pretty harsh on a lot of these sequels that we do, but I'll say that I also think it works as a sequel. I think that some of the story beats that are retreaded, but it's more scarcely put in. Right, it's not as kind of obvious as it was in Little Mermaid 2, for example. And I kind of like kind of the conversations that they have, and I think the animation and the music works. But more so than that, I think they just, like you said, Hunter, they continue on some of the characters and the storytelling. They really lack with Lady, and that was kind of something that was kind of keeping me back from it. But with the new characters, they do kind of put a little bit more effort into them. So for those reasons, I do think it works as a sequel.
It's gonna be a check for me too.
Nice.
I don't think that I could give this an X because I think I gave Mermaid a check in this department, so I feel like I have to give this a check too.
Oh wow.
Because I feel like it was very similar functionality as a sequel to Little Mermaid 2. I don't like what they did with Tramp's character. They did nothing with Lady's character. But as far as Scamp goes, as far as Angel goes, as far as Buster, the villain, goes,
yeah.
And mostly as far as the plot goes, insofar as alluding to the original and not really building upon it so much, but kind of giving us a different angle to it.
Yeah.
I think that's enough to kind of get it a check from me.
So that's gonna be 3 check marks across the board, actually. So the second question is it enjoyable / entertaining?
Yeah, I think, if you're a fan of the first one, for sure, there's enough callbacks and there's enough of the characters that make it entertaining. Angel's my favorite part, so I just talk about her nonstop. But I think she is a great addition of, kind of this total opposite of what Lady and the Tramp were, is what Scamp and Angel are. And I like seeing that, and I just like dog movies. I'm really into history, so like the town is very pleasing to the eye for me. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are pleasing to me, I guess you could say.
This is probably a controversial opinion, but that first movie isn't really about anything. But with the sequel, Lady and Tramp 2, there's actually a lot more story going on. It was kind of weird at first seeing like a story being put into Lady and the Tramp after just watching the first one, since the first one's very just like day in, day out. We're gonna go do this, we're gonna do that, I meet this person, we fall in love, blah, blah, blah. So to kind of piggyback off of all of that, I also think it's enjoyable / entertaining.
For me, all of the reasons you just said are the reason I gave it a check in the first place, comparing it directly to the first one. As far as enjoyability goes, I try to let it stand on its own. And like I said, it was a mixed bag. There was a lot of good. I think there was a little bit more bad. I don't like having a Lady and the Tramp movie where Lady's not doing anything and Tramp's just reacting to the plot happening.
So you don't think it's enjoyable or entertaining?
Even though I honestly don't, I was thinking about it, even though I honestly don't have much negative to say about the plot, I think that having those staple characters being so absent and being, kind of treated as so secondary, that's enough to get it an X from me, but just barely. I would give it X with an asterisk.
So our third question then, and this is going to be interesting for you, Hunter, because you kind of said something in regards to this already earlier. The third question is, does it need to exist?
Yeah, I just kind of said with like the last question, I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't really add to the plot. Like, I guess I'm comparing it to like Lion King 2, the other one I always watched. And that one adds so much to that universe because it's all about, you know, these lions that were with Scar and then they got exiled. And it's all about, you know, Simba through his daughter and like the boy that she loves, lion she loves, you know, making it so the two clans can come together. It's Romeo and Juliet. And so that adds a lot to the plot. And so I don't think this one was as powerful or necessary. There's nothing really added to, you know, whether or not you're a house dog or you're on the street. Adopt, don't shop, I guess, with the animals. But yeah, I don't think it's the most necessary thing.
I agree with you. And I want to break it down in a different way to where, you know, there's so many of these Disney sequels. And what's good about Lady and the Tramp 2 is, yes, they put in a little bit more effort than some of the other sequels that are really bad. And for those reasons, the effort that they do put in, it makes you acknowledge it. You know what, that works as a second story that is enjoyable and entertaining. But in regards to, does it need to continue the story? Do we need to have a second chapter 46 years later after the first Lady and Tramp? No, I don't think it needs to exist. So yeah, I agree with you. For all those reasons, it's going to be an X for me as well. I don't think it needs to exist. Which is shocking because we all started off pretty hot with checks.
So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's going to be an X for me too, for a lot of the reasons that you two mentioned in the past. For all the reasons you guys said, that's pretty much exactly why I agree with it. I don't want to harp on it too much.
So if you're doing the math at home, that's going to be 5 checks, 4 X's. This is going to get 1 giant check for worth going back again. And it gets help from having Hunter on this episode.
I think Hunter literally is, going to be the one that throws it over on the plus, because if it was just us, it would have been a dead split.
Oh, wow. Before we get any further, Hunter, I want to circle back to your business, and I want to circle back to, so can you tell us more about your website, about your business?
Yeah, of course. So I love planning people's trips to Disney. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. I'm trying to make it into my career because I could do it all day. When I first moved out to LA, I was at like a business thing, and this girl was like complaining because she works for Disney, and so they go to Disneyland all the time, but they were sending her to Disney World. And she's like, I don't even know what's there. Like, I don't know anything about it. So I just like squirmed into the conversation, and I was like, I can make a guide for you. And so, I made these very pretty guides instead of black and white, pages and pages of stuff. So I go into like what each attraction is at every park. And one thing that I think is really special that I do is I was always scared of everything, and I know a lot of people with special needs. And so I go into different things about the attractions that Disney won't tell you, like, oh, it could be scary at this part. It doesn't have air conditioning, And then, I go into dining and I go into the entertainment. And I always put like a little second star to the right from like Peter Pan. I have like a little symbol of like what I recommend that you do. And it's covered with like tips and tricks of like secret stuff to find around the park or to interact with around the park. And I also have character interaction tips, because it's always awkward when you're like going up to Buzz Lightyear and you're like, hi, Buzz. I'm like, I don't know what else to do now. This is awkward. And so I have like questions to get fun interactions. So that's what I do. And I love it so much, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, I think it's genius and I think it's great. So thank you for making that. Thank you for putting that out there. If you are ever planning on going to Disneyland or Disney World in the future, definitely check out this website. Definitely check out these tour guides. Hunter, I want to thank you for coming on today's episode, for breaking down Lady and the Tramp 2 with us. We would not have gotten through with it without your childhood expertise and love of the movie.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Guys, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, that you comment. Make sure you check out Magic Hunters, and check out our other episodes if you haven't checked out our other episodes so far. We only have about 3 Disney movies left on this version of the sequel podcast, and then we'll kind of extend out. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and we will see you here again, back again, on the Back Again on the Back Again podcast. See you next time.
Cut.